Well, thank you very much for coming. I much appreciate the drive that you've done this morning. So yeah, thanks again. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Thanks for having me up here.
No problem at all. And yeah, let's get into it. I like to start off with, what's your very first food memory?
Ooh, that's a good question. First food memory. I think maybe my first memorable dining experience. I think it was probably like my 12th or 13th birthday, and my parents took me to an old school French restaurant with the tableside service, and the white gloves, the everything. I've never seen or experienced anything like that, the whole hospitality side of things. So that memory always sticks out to me when I think about food, and it probably started my love for food in a professional way.
Yeah.
So when we had the Chateaubriand, they come to the table and they carve it in front of you and they plate it up and they got the veggies and this and that.
I love Chateaubriand.
It was amazing. And then my parents had the Café Diablos to finish dinner, so they've got like the orange peel with all the alcohol on fire going down into the glasses, and it was just really, really amazing.
Where was that?
That was in Vancouver. I don't think it's open anymore.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the place exactly, but that memory of the service and a dining experience is probably...
It's coming back more and more, that.
Yeah, I think...
That style of tableside. On Instagram, even in the last few weeks, I've seen the crêpes Suzettes quite a few times. The waiter folding them and flambeing and all of it. Yeah, I think more and more... It's always been... It's never gone completely, but it's definitely it really pulled back with silver service and all, it really started coming all the way back to the plating up on the plate and all that. I definitely see steak tartare getting made tableside, Caesar salads some sort of salad, Caesar salads getting made tableside.
Yeah, and it's that excitement and that interaction.
Definitely. It's
not just dropping a plate of food down at the table and, say a couple of words about it. It also shows off the skill and the professionalism of the servers and the front of house staff, which
Absolutely.
Often gets overlooked, I think.
I agree. And it really pulls back that theatre. Do you know what I mean? The experience, exactly what you're saying, the experience, not just the food. The food is great, but just that experience is, you talk about it 30 years later. I don't mean to age you. You talk about it years and years later, right? You're not talking about what the soup was like or whatever else it was like. You're talking about them presenting this and carving this at the side of the table. And I think it's Paul Bocuse that does the chicken inside the bladder. Is it the bladder?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually got to have that a few weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they bring it out. The Bresse chicken stuffed with truffles,
which is Bresse chicken is
the black-footed.
It's like the breed of France, isn't it? Yeah.
It's that particular breed of chicken. It's got black feet, and it's just an amazing chicken.
Yeah.
They stuff it with the truffles under the skin, and they put it in the pig's bladder, and it's the old school way of cooking it in the bag almost. It just steams
modern
in there.
Sous vide or old school sous vide.
Old school sous vide.
Yeah.
And it comes out to the table, and you've got the bladders, and they pop the bladder.
What's that smell like? What's that aroma like?
Oh, just it's beautiful. The chicken and the truffles and everything, and it just comes out. And they're carving it tableside. So they open the bladder, they get the chickens out, they carve it tableside, they put it, they sauce it, the veggies, it's all there. The skill and the technique from both sides. It was just amazing.
Yeah. Is it sat on hay? Is it sat on hay? I don't know. Maybe it's not. I'm not. I've never been. I think it's like in a copper pan or something sat on hay or so. I don't know. Yeah. Just again, that changes from it's almost a bit different as opposed to presentation, as opposed to plating up. You've seen the swipes and you've seen the forms and you see whatever it might be, different styles of plating up. Where this is more, the plating up is not really, obviously they carve it nicely and they plate it on the plate nicely and they sauce it, but there's no the flair and all that is in the carving,
the presentation of it before it even gets on the plate.
Exactly, yeah. The actual if I just turned up and give you that meat on a plate with a sauce without that bit behind,
you look at it and you go, well, that's not very impressive.
That's exactly.
But you've watched it all happen in front of you for the last 5 minutes, and it's all the work that's gone into it as well.
Exactly. And how many tables would you say were having that?
Well, I think because it's one of his signature dishes, almost every table
yeah,
is having it.
Exactly. That's what I thought.
You go to these restaurants, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity for most people, and you want to have the dishes that you've read about. As chefs,
caviar and pearls. Is it caviar? The oysters and pearls at the French Laundry. Oysters. Yeah. They've all got their own thing, haven't they? Yeah.
And the what was it? The truffle soup with the puff pastry.
Bocuse.
Well.
Where they seal it on. We actually did a function back in England with some friends who, at a restaurant I used to work at, who used to work for him, and they did that dish for a garland dinner. Actually, it was amazing. Yeah, it's phenomenal. All them classic.
Yeah. So when you get to go to these places and have these meals, you see it. You finally get to go there. Of course, you're going to have these signature dishes,
absolutely,
and
they
didn't disappoint. But I think that's the majority of what they sell.
Yeah. So, you in France? Why were you in France? Let's get into that.
All right. So I was in France because I was the 2023 candidate for Bocuse d'Or Australia. So.
So what is Bocuse d'Or?
The Bocuse d'Or is a competition that started by the French chef Paul Bocuse, I think in 1987. But don't quote
round
me
about
on that. So it's
in
held,
the 80s.
In the 80s. So it's held every 2 years, and it's the top 24 countries in the world compete in the finals.
But you've got to get to the top 24.
So you have to get to the top 24.
Is it
So. Basically, the competition is you get a couple key ingredients and you have to present them to the judges. But going back a few steps, so every country has regional qualifiers. So Australia is having theirs. Our next one is on the 30th of April, which is going to be held at Fine Food Australia.
Okay, so it starts straight away after. Yeah.
So
okay.
It's a 2-year competition. So you do your national selection and you just start training straight away. And then, so every country would do that. And then you have the Asia Pacific. Australia is in the Asia Pacific qualifying. So there's Asia Pacific, there's the Americas, there's the African, and there's the European. So there's 4 sets of qualifying. And each one has a different amount of countries, and then a different amount go through. So I think Asia Pacific has about 12 countries, and the top 5 go through to the finals. So when I competed, we made it in the top 5 in Asia Pacific.
So who else was in that top 5?
I believe in that top 5 was, there was us, China, Japan, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. It doesn't matter.
It's been a while since that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then you go to the finals in France. So there's the top 24 countries from all the qualifiers competing over 2 days. So you got 12 teams on the first day and 12 teams on the second day. And then the structure is they give you a key ingredient that you need to showcase, and you need to showcase the country that you're representing.
Did you know that key ingredient before you got there?
Yes. So they announce them staggered. So I think the first key ingredient that we had to use was monkfish, Scottish monkfish.
Yeah, nice.
With king scallops and mussels.
Nice.
So, and they give you certain criteria. So we had to use the monkfish and the scallops presented on a platter with 2 garnishes. And when I say garnishes, they're little kind of canapé bite-sized pieces that are vegetable based.
Yeah. And
then we had to do the mussels with a grain endemic of the region and
a grain.
Yeah.
Of this region or that or
of the country that you're representing.
So Australia, for instance.
Yeah, for us it was obviously Australia, and France would use something different, and Iceland would use something different.
So you have to take that with you?
You have to take it with you.
Right, okay.
And a crouton. So that was the criteria for that dish, and we found that out, I think, about 6 months before the competition.
Cool.
So once you find out what you're doing, and that's really go time, and you start conceptualizing and practicing and testing different ideas and presentations
and what's
flavors.
your thought process around there? Are you thinking classic? Are you thinking, with you said a grain, right? You said, Are you thinking like, can we turn that into a flour to turn into a such and so? Are you trying to do all these kind of things, or what's your thought process around that?
It's a bit of both. It's kind of all of that. You want to showcase technique. It's always good to show them something that they haven't seen before, whether it's a different kind of flavor profile or technique, or when they're eating something, they go, oh, how did they make that? They're
asking you questions as well. Do you present it? Or?
No, but you've got the menu, and it gets presented like there, and there's explanation and stuff like that. So, but even as a chef, when you go into a restaurant, you eat something, you go, oh, that's really nice. Like, how did they make that?
Yeah.
I want to know how they did it, type thing.
Yeah.
So being able to do that is always a benefit. You've got the best chefs in the world.
Yeah.
Judging and tasting your food, it's always good to give them something interesting as well. So you
Can I ask you one more question on that? Sorry, and I'm going to ask you millions of questions, but so what are you doing? Scottish monkfish here? Like, are you just using a substitute, or? Yeah,
so that's one of the difficulties for Australia and quite a few of the other countries involved, because it is such a European-based competition.
Yeah.
We have other challenges that they don't have, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for us.
Yeah.
But in the end, we were able to get some monkfish imported.
Right.
So we started training with some kind of substitutes that you can just practice with and get the shapes and different ideas.
Yeah.
Until you get the actual product, and then then you do some actual testing as to what temperature it needs to be cooked at, and how it's going to react, and how it's going to pick up the flavors.
Shrinkage or whatever, especially with monkfish, it's on the bone and things like that. It does peel back sometimes on the bone.
And that's the thing is, and you go through different ideas, like, do you want to cook it on the bone? And you don't know how it's going to react until you actually have the monkfish.
Yeah.
So you can't just use a different fillet of fish or a different type of fish if you're going to try and cook it on the bone. If you're going to use a fillet of monkfish, you can substitute a fillet of something else for a stand-in while you do some practicing if you can't get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just certain things you need the actual ingredients for, and for us it was difficult to get it. We got some in the end, and it was extremely expensive.
Yeah.
But that's part of what we need to do for the competition, is because you have to use the ingredients that you don't want to show up in France and never have cooked a piece of monkfish.
Definitely not, facts for sure, 100%. Monkfish used to be like a real bottom of the ladder kind of fish, right? I don't know. Did you see it with the head on? I'm sure you did see it. Yeah.
They didn't have it there, but I've seen it.
Yeah, it's like a third of its body, right? Yeah. It's an amazing. It looks literally something out of the prehistoric times,
right?
It
is.
Yeah.
It's a hideous fish.
So exactly. So we used to do it monkfish ossobuco and all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All that. It was good. So you've got the grains and you're practicing. That's like you get that 6 months out. So you've got the grains, your fish, and all the rest of it.
So you start working on different ideas, and you want to showcase where you're from.
Yeah.
You want to showcase, and even more specifically, I'm based in Torquay at Sou'Wester Brewery. So we, for the grain,
perfect. Yeah.
That's where I incorporated the grain. Yeah. So I used the barley. I used some of the different grains in one of the other dishes, and this dish. So I used crystal malt, which is used for making dark beers.
I know crystal meth. I don't know about crystal meth.
No, I wasn't able to use any of that. So I just used the crystal malt. So it's like a really roasted, caramelized barley.
Yeah.
So almost think not as extreme as Vegemite, but you've got that really deep flavor, and that's where the color and the flavor comes in the black beers and dark
stouts
beers and
things
stouts
like
and things like that.
Yeah.
So I used a percentage of that and pale ale and malted wheat, and I milled that all together to make our own flours and stuff for the tart shells and the pastry, and using the barley as our grain with the mussels, to really showcase and tell the story as well about where in the world I am right now.
Yeah, like zoning right in, right? Yeah, that's awesome.
Showcasing, the coast, like the Great Ocean Road and the coastal aspect of it, but you've also got the forest right on the other side of the road, so like where the land meets the sea and those really unique flavors.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is the kind of theme that I put onto it, as well as showcasing unique Australian ingredients, all combined to go with the monkfish, scallops, and mussels.
Beautiful.
So
what did you think of the scallops over there, right?
Oh, so
well, coming from Canada,
yes.
you get great scallops as
yes.
well, but they're beautiful, right?
Yeah.
It's
Canadian scallops are up there with the best in the world, for sure.
Yeah.
Very different to Australian scallops.
Yeah, the Australian scallops are more like, we would call them more like queenies almost. Like queen scallops, queenies, you used to call them queen. Yeah, they're a bit more than that, but they're not much. They're small, right, in comparison.
Yeah, they're very small.
In comparison, for sure.
So it's hard to... I love scallops with a really nice caramelized, and those small scallops, you just can't cook them like that.
Yeah, we used to just grill them. It's probably it's just under a hot grill, some butter.
That's it.
That's the only really good way to do it. I mean, like you say, you can't get that real caramelization that you're looking for. Yeah. So how long are you training for?
Well, sorry.
For that? Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
So that was dish one.
Yeah.
We have to do 2 dishes.
Yeah. Okay.
So dish 2, they gave us the theme, and we had about a month or a bit more before we had to have the menus submitted. So we working on the monkfish dish. Yeah. And then you get the second dish. So this year, it's always been, going back another step, like the monkfish, it's presented on a platter. Yeah. So you have to design and showcase the food on a platter. And going back a few years, you would always do dish 1 on a platter and dish 2 was on a platter. Yeah. And then dish 2 started being presented on a plate, and now dish 2 is turned into a 3-course meal. Okay. So we got given the theme of feed the kids. So it was about creating food that was nutritious and exciting and playful for children.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then we had to use pumpkin on top of that. So course 1 or plate 1 was a cold vegan entree, a hot vegetarian main with an egg, and dessert was
pumpkin pie, obviously.
Pumpkin pie. It was too obvious, so I had to stay away from that, especially being from Canada. So, we had to use pumpkin in all 3 of those dishes. So you have 5.5 hours for 2 people to cook and create both of those, 15 portions of each.
So 15 platters?
So 1 large platter
for the monkfish 15
that has 15 portions worth on it.
Got it. And
then we have 15 individual boards that have 15 of the entree, main, and dessert all on the board.
Right. Okay.
So
it sounds like posh airplane food.
Well, the theme the year before was takeaway food during COVID, like coming out of COVID. Some countries were still in it, and they did that 3-course takeaway menu, and they kind of carried that through onto this year as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I think it does show a lot more skill, because you have to do a dessert. You have to do an entree, You're doing 3.
It has a balance all the way through, right?
4 dishes.
Yeah.
Instead of 2.
Yeah. So what did you do for that one, for the pumpkin?
So we did a macadamia and pumpkin tofu.
Nice.
With a smoked pumpkin disc on the bottom, and I did like a coastal consomme broth, and we had pickled pumpkin vegetables. Alphabet letters.
Oh, nice.
So the theme was
cool.
Alphabet soup.
Yeah.
So we spelled out Bocuse door in the letters.
Fuck, I'd have been screwed. I'd have spelled that wrong. For sure. Absolutely, for sure.
And then, and thinking about kids, and I've got my own kids, what do kids like in Australia? And I think about like birthday parties and stuff. And
Bluey biscuits.
Party pies. You can't go to a kid's birthday party and there's no party pies. So I made a kind of play on that and did like a petivier with layers of pumpkin and potato and mushroom and wrapped in the cabbage, and then you wrap that in the pastry that I made with all the grain from the brewery. So you got this really dark caramelized.
So did you have to make the pastry on everything from scratch that day? So you got to get that made, get it in the fridge, get it resting.
No, nothing can be made in advance. No stocks, no sauces, nothing. It's all weighed. You can weigh everything out and get your recipes ready.
Get ready to go. Yeah.
But there's nothing that's pre-cooked or pre-mixed or pre-done. No peeling of vegetables, nothing.
That's a great idea. The party pies. That's because, like you say, and for people who don't listen to, who are listening from overseas, party pies are mini meat pies, and over here a lot of people kids go on play dates or birthday parties and things like that. They'll go to like bounce or they'll go to some sort of event, and it's always party pies, and people and there's party pies everywhere. Like you go to the footy and there's canapes, it's party pies. It's heaps of party pies.
It's a very Australian thing.
Very Australian.
Kids love it as well. So I just kind of narrowed that in as my theme and inspiration.
Did they understand that about the party pies? Did they understand that?
I don't know. It's a fair question to ask. But I don't. When the competition is happening, like, you're so focused on what you're doing and getting the food up, you don't really get a chance to talk to the judges and see, because the judge from Mauritius or the judge from Chile, they may not.
There's a judge from every country.
So every team. Sorry. Yes. There's a judge from every country. So every team puts forward a judge, which tastes all the food, a coach, which stands at the pass and helps direct and make sure that you're on track. And
bit of support in that as well.
Support, because everything is timed down to the minute. You've got your workflow plan, you've got your 5.5 hours, and you need to get things done in time. Yeah. So they just say, oh, keep an eye on that, change this, do that.
Yeah, they can watch the oven and the timer and things like that for you, right?
You're trying to do something, and you say, oh, what's my next job? And so they tell you what you need to do next, so you can.
So you're not looking through your list and all of it, saving you
just
30 seconds to a minute there. Yeah.
And then there's the two of us cooking in the kitchen, myself and a commie, who the commie has to be under 23 years of age at the time of the competition. And then they also supply you on the day for the finals with a student from one of the local schools to help wash dishes and help plate up a little bit and things like that.
Did you get a good one?
Yeah, we got a good one, which helps a lot.
And who chose the commie, or how did you choose a commie, or how does that? Is there a competition to be the commie, or?
No, there was. It was a bit of an interesting one for me because generally you apply as a team together. Yeah. Okay. And I had a commie that would have been of the age to go all the way through to France. So you kind of apply as a team.
Oh, does he work for you?
No.
Oh, okay. You just knew it.
But that's the ideal situation, is you've got somebody that works with you and you know them, they know you, and you work together every day and you can practice things and test things, little bits and pieces. Because it is like any service or anything like that, it's a bit of a dance. You need to know how each other moves and how you work together. And
bumped into each other.
Yeah.
Burning. I get it.
So
I always feel like that when you're in the kitchen, like say for instance you're in the even in a small home kitchen, if one of your friends come around and you cook dinner, you can really work around each other. But then if you're cooking with someone, me mum or whatever, someone who doesn't work in the kitchen, you're like, but why are you there? Like, you should be there. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you standing that way from the bench? It's so true. You can really tell when someone is new to a kitchen, bumping into them and whatnot. Yeah,
and so I had a commie that was going to come through, and then they decided they didn't want to compete in the competition anymore. And I was only, we were a few weeks out from the competition.
Oh, what? What happened there?
They just
nervous?
I don't know. They just didn't have the time or wanted to commit to it anymore. So they decided they didn't want to do.
What a bloody opportunity. Nah, I'm all right. I don't want to go to France and compete in probably the world's greatest competition. Nah. I've got something else on.
Yeah. So I was left a little bit behind. So I had a guy in the kitchen named Sam. He was the right age at the time, but he would have been a few months too old in France. So given the situation, I said, look, this is the only guy that I have available to help me compete in nationals. He's, under the age now. Can I use him to compete in nationals? And they said yes. We competed in the nationals because it was just such short notice, and it was difficult to fill that spot and to find somebody that would have been the age in France. So I competed with the guy from the brewery. We won nationals, and then after that we go, okay, well, now what's the next step? We look for another commie that's the right age to go all the way through, and we found somebody to work with me.
Oh, did you?
And then we worked together and trained together to go to France.
So how long did you get together? Like, how long did you get to train together before then? Like 6 months or something?
It was probably about 10 months.
Yeah, okay.
10 months.
It's
or so.
such a huge commitment.
It
So
really
is it like, are you meeting up every Wednesday afternoon or every 2 weeks or what? Like, how does it work? Like,
well, ideally, you'd meet up once or ideally you work together already.
Yeah. But ideally, but then on the same hand, that's ideally for you. But if you're for the restaurateur or the person, probably not so ideal when you both fuck off to France for 2 weeks or whatever, right?
In the middle of January, which is the peak time of year.
But not in Europe.
Not in Europe.
Yeah.
And see, that's another one of the challenges that's unique to us and a few other countries around the world. Is it is a very, like I said, European-centered competition. So a lot of the restaurants in France and those areas, they close for winter and they just practice and train and get ready. Whereas we're in the peak of our trade.
Yeah, it starts basically the end of November, doesn't it? Right in the way through, especially where you are, like down on the coast. That runs all the way through till the middle of February at least, right?
Yeah. So it is every country, everybody's got their own unique challenges, and you just kind of work through them and do the best you can.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else we can do.
Yeah, it is. That's part of being the competition, right?
That's part of the, and it's no different for me or any other candidate that's represented Australia. It's difficult for us.
Yeah.
And everybody just does the best they can.
So what happened on the day you wait? You're getting ready. Actually, let's go back. What's it like as you're flying over? Like, this is the day. Like, I know what I'm like when I'm leaving home to go to work. I'm like, have I got my phone? Have I got my wallet? Have I got my pen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, what's it like there? You must be packing, like making sure you've got all the ingredients and everything that you need. Is it quite stressful as you say goodbye to it?
Yeah, it's pretty stressful because there's, it started maybe a month before that because we take all of our equipment with us. So again, like I mentioned with the flow chart and things like that, everything's super detailed. So you know what you're going to cook. You know exactly how many spatulas, how many trays, how many bowls, how many pots, how many pans you need to execute that menu. So we actually, about a month before, had to pack that all on a pallet and ship it to France.
Yeah, okay.
And then so that's when it started. You got your checklists and you're writing it down. You go, okay, I packed that. Because you don't know, once you get there, it's going to be a bit more difficult. Obviously, there's shops and things like that. But you want to make sure you've got everything with you. And some of the stuff you think will be easy to find there because it's easy to find here. It isn't.
Yeah.
I think we went to about 6 or 8 different shops trying to find dill seed. And we couldn't get it. So I just couldn't. I just had to take it out of the recipe.
Yeah. Okay.
But as you go along and it's closer to flying out, you've got your checklists and have I packed this? Have I got that?
And then when you get on the plane and you're going over, is there like a sense of, like I guess you're going to in your sport or your field, which is obviously cooking. You're going to play at the World Cup, right? Basically, do you have that feeling of like, this is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, a bit of a buzz. Have you got a buzz on? Are you like, I'm representing a country here? It's a big thing, right? It's not like
it's huge, and this is something I've wanted to do almost my whole career. Like once I found out about it, I've always been interested and always wanted to be involved and compete and represent the country.
Are you a competitive person?
Yes and no. So this is basically the first real competition that I've been involved in.
Yeah.
I've done a couple little small ones, but nothing too serious.
Yeah.
So, I might now that I've done it, I think I might get involved in a few more competitions, because it's not so much the competition that excites me, but it's the learning and the pushing yourself to keep getting better and learn and do more and continue to grow as a chef.
Yeah.
Because I learned so much about myself doing the competition, as well as learning and practicing and getting better at different techniques.
In what way? I hear people say that I learned a lot about myself. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, you just, when doing the competition, like I mentioned about the theme and what I wanted to showcase. So then, you have a lot of like internal reflection and go, well, what kind of food do I do?
Yeah.
What kind of food do I want to show? What am I going to showcase about my skills? Because I've always just worked and done food that I like, and it's tasty and this and that. I've never spent any time thinking about what is my style of food? What am I good at? What am I not good at? I never reflected on myself like that before.
Yeah, like when in your, I guess it's like a songwriter going in themselves to release the words that are inside them, right? It's that kind of thing, right?
Like I never thought of myself as having a style.
Yeah.
But then, you want to showcase a certain style or showcase who you are, you need to find that. So, and having conversations like this and stuff like that, when people are asking you questions, they're a lot of the times for me, things that I hadn't really thought about before. So it forces you to think about it.
I think that's a lot of people. I think, like you're saying, that's very interesting what you're saying. I don't think many people, I think people go around day to day just, I don't want to, this sounds so negative, but just existing. Do you know what I mean? Like, they get up, they go to work, they do the job, and they don't have much time reflecting or looking at, and don't get me wrong, I'm fucking one of the worst for it, like being on the phone, and I think going back, 50 years, there was a lot of more downtime, just relaxing, there was nothing to do, even when you're taking a shit, right? Everyone looks at the phone when they're taking a shit these days, right? Like, at least when you're taking a shit, you had that time to fucking relax and think about something, where nowadays, it's constant, right? So, it's probably less and less. So yeah, I think you're right. That giving yourself that opportunity to dig within yourself and find out what you believe in and push yourself is it's a great thing.
Because you're doing, you're cooking and you're putting yourself out there to be judged. That's what the competition is. So it's and
that alone is terrifying.
You're just putting yourself out there for anybody to say you're really good or you're really shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's exactly that. Absolutely. Like I've said this many times, and I remember putting like staff meals up. In the job that you've just got to, you've been cooking for a long time. Yeah. And you go to it's like, you see your name on the roster, staff food Wednesday. The week before, you start fucking panicking. You're like, oh shit, I'm on staff food. What can I do? And you just, and then when you start writing menus, and you're getting feedback off people, and everyone's got an opinion. So it's like, fuck. But then to do it at the highest level, I guess it all comes down to preparation. How much preparation that will create the confidence to be able to do it right.
Yeah.
So who helped you with the preparation? Obviously, you get a mentor. Do you get a mentor?
Yeah. So there's, like I said, there's the judge.
And who was that?
That was Scott Pickett.
Yeah, he was the judge.
He was
for
the judge
Australian
for Team Australia in France.
Yeah.
So he's on board to help mentor and discuss, the food and the practicing and do tastings and stuff like that.
Prior.
Yeah. Prior.
He's been doing this a while, right? He's been part of this.
Because he represented Australia as well. He was a candidate.
Yeah.
Tom Milligan's the president of Bocuse Australia. There was Dan Arnold, so he's based in Brisbane. Yeah. He was the competitor in 2017. Yeah. So he placed 8th for Australia, which is our highest
brilliant.
Placing. So he was my coach. He was the one that I would talk to a lot. There's just a big group of support. There's Andrew Ballard. There was Paulie. They all came in and helped with practicing and testing and weighing up and getting recipes ready. My friend Justin came over from Canada to France to help, because it's a big logistical nightmare as well.
Oh, your friend come from Canada to France to just help you get shit together.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, so he's a chef. He
wanted to be around it.
He wanted to be around it. We went and observed in 2017. We went there together.
Because you knew you were going to be competing for it?
No, because
we just
went to go have a look. So I competed in the Nationals in 2016.
Yeah.
And I didn't win.
Yeah.
That's the year Dan Arnold won, actually.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, thought, well, let's go observe it. Let's go see what it's all about and go there.
So out your own time, your own money, your own thing, you flew out there. And so you, like you say, I know you said earlier that it's something that you've always wanted to do, but you were taking it really seriously. Right?
And that's the thing, in Australia, it's not as well known as it is in Europe and a lot of other countries. So everybody that's involved, they're volunteering their time, they're doing it for the love and the passion of it. Nobody gets anything out of it other than, being involved and representing the country. Yeah,
it's like the Olympic Games in some respects.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the food Olympic Games, yeah. So as you're flying over, you did get that sense of, you were off to compete at your
you get that sense of excitement, but I also got a little bit of, while on the plane at least, a little bit of relief, like, okay, I'm here, I'm on the plane now,
it's happening.
It's happening, there's not a lot more we can do. We're going to get there. We're going to do some more practicing, and then we cook.
Oh, so you're going to practice again before you?
Yeah, because of the timeline of like we mentioned, how busy it is that time of year. So the competition was on the 29th of January.
Yeah.
So I flew out about 10 days before that. And
of course you did. I've got to fly out. Have a good time, guys. See Call me if you need anything.
So we get there, we get set up, we unpack the equipment, we go to a shop, and we do a couple training sessions there as well.
Like at where the competition's going to be, or do you have a friend or do you just someone who's rented a restaurant or a hotel with a spare?
The team organised there's a school over there, so we were able to use their kitchens and set up in there and do practice runs. So we did a few practice runs in Melbourne.
How did they go?
Well, it's always stressful, but they went well. You always think, because it's timed, you've got 5.5 hours, so you're always working to do what you can in that time. And then and everybody who's done it, the first time they do it, they're always way over on their time.
Yeah.
And then you just start you get some more efficiencies. It's like the first day of doing a new menu or opening a new restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, it's always really tough. And then you do it a few times, you get the efficiencies, you get the flow, you know where things are, you're grabbing it without having to think about it. So it's just practicing enough to get to that point where you get that time down naturally, and then you think, okay, well, what can we do better? Or do we change this, or this isn't working, how do we change that?
And did you have some of them whilst you were in France before the day that did you?
Yeah.
So you're changing things right up to the last minute, effectively.
We did. It's not ideal. Because like some of the European teams, like I said, the restaurants are closed, so they're doing practice sessions 2 or 3 times a week, 6-8 weeks leading up to it.
Yeah.
We just don't have the funding or the time to be able to take away from doing that. We don't have a custom-built kitchen that is to the same dimensions.
Do some people?
Yeah, a lot of countries have. So they'll have full custom-built kitchens to exact specs, same equipment, same height, same dimensions, everything.
So they're just walking into exactly what they know.
They know exactly where everything is. So they might have kitchen, like it's a stainless steel bench, right?
Yeah.
Some teams will fabricate boxes that sit on top of the benches, filled with drawers. So all their equipment's in there. You
just
pull
slide
it out,
up and bum, 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 bum. Yeah,
and then they slide it over here, and they put their dirty dishes in that part. And then at the end, they just pick up the boxes, wipe the bench, and they're going.
Fuck.
Who's
that?
Most of the European countries.
Yeah, Denmark.
Team USA, all of that. They've got all this custom-built equipment. I don't know if it's true or not, but I also heard like Team USA, the candidate was a bit short, so they had a custom built floor to raise the floor up so it was easier for him to work and plate up and everything like that. So don't know if that's true. That's what I was told.
We'll go with it.
Because I was focusing on what I was
it.
doing, but you know, it's just there's so many levels to it because it's taken so much more seriously over there. They get the funding, like they've got government funding. They have $1 million a year or €1 million a year for the 2 years to concentrate and get ready for this competition.
And how much do we have?
I think we've got about $100,000. and that's a lot of hard work to get that $100,000, to find those sponsors and suppliers.
It's not government.
People. It's not government. We don't have the government support. So, you know, like I said before, everybody's volunteering. Everybody's doing it for the love of it and trying to get that funding as much as we can to do those things to make us more competitive with the other teams.
And it's important, right? It's important for our industry, I think. Do you know, like...
Yeah, it creates a bit of excitement. I mean, you're there with all these...
Yeah, Thomas Keller, everyone's there, right? Yeah.
Dominic Krem was there, like all these top chefs, all the biggest chefs in the world are there at this competition.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't get any higher, it doesn't get any more elite. Like, this is as serious as it gets for the chefing world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get any more exciting either, because it's all these people that you follow on Instagram or you buy their cookbooks and you think, oh, I want to go eat in their restaurant one day, or I'd love to meet this person. Like, they're all there.
Yeah.
And we need to come together as a country better and support Team Australia better to represent better and showcase the amazing food and talent and skill that's in this country. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more, because some of the food here and some of the cooks here are phenomenal, right? It's a really, and it's forever growing, right? It's always pushing the boundary. It's such a melting pot. Where England for me is a melting pot of, you know, France and Italy and Portugal and this, that, the other. We have that here, but with China and Japan, as well as the Europeans, because we've got a lot of Greeks and a lot of Italians and whatnot here. But on top of that, you've got a lot of Japanese cookery, a lot of raw seafood here, and sustainability. They're always, you know, it's big. So I think
we're not boxed in by tradition like some of those other countries are. We have the ability to be more creative and to apply different techniques and flavors to dishes that some countries just can't, because they're bound by tradition. Yeah,
exactly. Like, why are you doing that in such and such? I get it. Yeah. So on the day, what? So you wake up on the morning. What are you absolutely terrified? Like, can you sleep the night before, or?
You can sleep. You know, I was pretty exhausted because we're, like I said, training and getting ready up to the last minute. And, so, I was able to get to sleep, but I think I had about 7 alarms set for that morning. So we're staying in, the candidates and the coaches, they have to stay all together in a hotel. The rest of the team were in an Airbnb. So they meet us at the show with the equipment. So they do the bump in, and then we all have to go on.
Bump in? What's a bump in?
The bump in, like, getting into the convention center.
Okay.
So the competition's held in this massive convention center, massive trade show for food and hospitality.
And what else? Sorry, just going off that. What is it? Is there anything going on as well? Is other people, like, is there a trade show going on at the time and things? Or, right. Okay. So there's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
Right. Okay.
So just as the Bocuse Australia national selection is happening in a trade show.
Yeah.
It's the same over there, but it's like on steroids. It's like ×5.
Right. Okay.
It is like 5 Melbourne exhibition convention centers combined.
Yeah. Okay.
It's huge.
And it's like produce and it's equipment. And
everything you can imagine.
Yeah. Got it.
And there's other competitions. There's the Coupe du Monde. There's chocolate pieces, sugar pieces. bakery competitions, all that kind of stuff happening as well, and then the show finishes with the Bocuse store.
Right. Okay.
So we got to rock up with all of the equipment at the back of house area, bump it in. So bump it in just means like getting all your equipment, coming inside to the venue, and getting ready to put it into your kitchens.
And is it quite a quick turnaround, is it?
Yeah, you get about half an hour.
So one team's
every
out,
country
you go
gets
in.
allocated times.
Yeah, okay.
And there's 12 kitchens on the day. So all the candidates and coaches and commies, they go on a bus together to the trade show.
Yeah.
So we started cooking at 9:31, which meant we had an hour, 2 hours to bump in and get ready.
Yeah.
So at 7:31, we're allowed to bring our equipment in. So the bus left at 5:15 in the morning. So I set my alarm for 4:05, 4:10, 4:15 because I wasn't going to be late.
I'm coming.
So, and whether you're team 1 that started at cooking at 7 a.m. or team 12 that started cooking at 10 a.m.
Right, okay.
We're all on the same bus.
Yeah.
We're all there really early. So you kind of go in, you get there, and it's a bit strange. You got a bit of a sense of relief as knowing like this is it. There's no more that can be done. Everything's ready.
There's no turning back.
There's no turning back. And all we have to do now is cook.
Yeah.
So it was exciting and a sense of relief at that same time because you're always constantly thinking about it, working on it. What can we do better?
Yeah.
What can we change? Is like you're saying when you're checking for your keys and your phone and your wallet when you leave the house, and you're just going through all those checklists of have I done this, and this. And then you finally, you get time to bump in, and you walk in, and it's a massive stadium, and all these kitchens and all these teams are already started cooking because it's done in 10-minute increments.
All right, yeah.
So you've got teams already cooking. We were team number 8. Team number 1's like well into their cook already. They've been going for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then we just, you bump in, you start putting all your equipment in place, you get your fridges organized, all the food, everything, you start getting set up. And then the judges, they come in, they scrutinize everything, make sure that they go through everything in your fridges, every container, every bag to make sure that
nothing's hiding in
nothing's
there,
hiding, nothing's been prepped, nothing's been cooked. Like I had a bag, so we weighed everything up and backed it. Yeah. So it took up less space and it was quick and easy. So I had a backpack bag of mango puree, and they made me cut it open. They wanted to taste it because it was supposed to be in its original container.
Oh, okay.
So they're about to take it away because it wasn't in its original container.
What did you say?
It could have been a different puree, or it could have been cooked, or this, or something could have been done, or flavors added to it and stuff. So they opened it up and they tasted it and they go, okay, that's just mango puree.
Yeah, okay.
So, but it's all, you've got 5 of these amazing chefs and they're just all in your kitchen.
Are you feeling
everything.
You feel the presence?
You feel the presence and it's exciting, but for me I was just so focused on what I had to do.
Cut them out.
You kind of had the blinders on and didn't, the sense of occasion didn't really come into it.
That's good. I remember, nothing at that, believe it or not, I did a few half marathons, and one of them, Mo Farah, I don't know if you know Mo Farah, is a very successful, exactly. And he was starting it off with the gun, they get like a celebrity, anyway. And he did a little bit of a speech beforehand, and he said, all the training's done. Yeah. This is the time you've done it. This is it. Now try and enjoy this moment, because this is it. This is what you put 10 weeks in for me, 10 months in for you. This is what this is it. And you're probably not going to get many shots at this in your life. So for you, do you know what I mean? To try and just enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And I always think about big moments like that, and I think about him saying that at this one time, and I think, just try and enjoy that moment. And I guess for you it was probably the same, right? Just trying to be in it and absorb it all and enjoy every minute of it, right?
Yeah, and that was the case the whole time there. Like you get to meet all these amazing people, and there's the whole cooking side and the food side of the competition, but it's also like just getting to meet everybody and create
networking,
new relationships and networking. And
what was it like?
Meeting all the other candidates from all the other countries around the world.
Did you set yourself up with any stages or anything?
Not yet.
But you think you got the opportunity? Do you think
if that opportunity is definitely there for people. And I'll probably take up that opportunity when I have a bit more time as well. But yeah, it's great for that type of thing. It just opens so many doors, and the level of camaraderie in the competition is huge. Like even the judges who were scrutinizing all my food in the kitchen, they were all extremely nice. Like pats on the back and hugs and let's take some photos and this and that. So it was really, really good.
And you say the camaraderie there. You say you all stayed in the same hotel. Was there like a restaurant there, or did you all eat together, or how did?
No, everybody, all the teams kind of stuck. Like you say hello and you meet each other and this and that, but some of the competition, it is very secretive and it is a competition.
Yeah, of course.
So a lot of the teams kind of stick to themselves a little bit, and nobody knows what anybody else is going to cook beforehand and things like that.
You'd never ask. You wouldn't ask.
Well, you wouldn't ask, but but that just kind of goes to speak towards, some teams are, you'll have conversations and you'll say hello, but you're not hanging out, and everybody's practicing or getting ready or getting organized and getting themselves ready for the competition. So
could you feel like the ones who had the big funding, could you see like, they had all brand new gear and all brand new, I can imagine it. I can just imagine like the Americans rocking up with like brand new everything, gleaming white this, brand new shoes. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can just imagine that's the case.
We left the hotel. We took an Uber.
All the knives are like this big. Yeah. Like everything's bigger.
Well, we took an Uber to the show, right? And because like the day before there was some photos that we had to take. Oh, and there was orientation. So we were in an Uber going there to do that, and I noticed at the front of the hotel leaving was this like brand new Audi Q7 or something like that. It says Team USA official car on the side of it. And I thought, oh, that's pretty nice. And then we come to the front of the trade show, and in the middle of the entrance, there's 6 of those.
Oh my goodness.
All VIP parking spots, all saying Team USA Bocuse store on the side of it. Like you see things like that when we're in an Uber or this and that.
Like, backpack on, like, holes in your Berkeys, and I can imagine. You can imagine that's the case for sure. It must have been. It's almost unfair in some aspects, but at the end of the day, that's everything in sport. Well, in some sort of sport, every country, exactly. Every country takes different things more seriously, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Did you see any techniques that you thought, God, that's a fucker? Whoever thought that's a good technique? Or
there's always at least a dozen of those that come out of this competition every time, because a lot of those teams with that funding, they just spend 2 years practicing and training and working towards it.
You can get scientists involved and things like that when you've got that kind of funding, right?
Like there'll be a team, like a full-time team of like 8 people just working towards this for 2 years. And that candidate might have been involved for the last 4 years, 6 years before that, learning and getting ready for the competition. So then when
he's
it's their
like piggybacked, so they know who the next one's going to be. So he's already. Is that what you're saying?
Some of those teams have their selections so early on that they just flow into it, and they're on board and learning the whole back end and all that kind of stuff, and practicing those new and different techniques all the time. And I look at the Bocuse d'Or, it's a bit of, you kind of compare it to like a fashion show.
That's exactly what I would, exactly. I always use this analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the styles and the techniques and the brand new ideas, you know, it's like the runway. And then a couple of years later, you start seeing them filter down into other restaurants and more approachable brands and things like that until it's commonly used.
Absolutely. And then the equipment, the big companies go, oh, sous vide would be a classic example or whatever, right? Molecular or whatever. And they're like, fuck, I'll jump on that and I'll start making that more commercially viable.
And it's like tuile molds and silicon molds.
Yeah.
Now, everybody would custom make their own and there was nowhere to really buy that kind of stuff. And now you have like the Mold Brothers or Food Shapes, the guy from, the candidate from Sweden, he does his own. He's got his company called Food Shapes and he makes custom tuile molds and for himself and sells other tuile molds to other people. Yeah,
because there is a lot of shapes and things, isn't there? Like baskets and things that are going over. I see you did the leaves. Did you do the leaves?
Yeah, I did leaves.
What were them leaves?
That was a different dish, but I did like beetroot leaves.
Oh, they're beetroot leaves.
Yeah, so you do like a beetroot puree kind of a tuile, and then you press it in the silicon mold, and it just keeps that shape, and then you garnish it with that.
Yeah, that looked lovely. But you didn't do that on the day?
That was for something else.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do that on the day.
And the cabbage, the cabbage, did you do that on? Is that? I seen you doing a cabbage, like a wrapped.
Oh, that was Asia Pacific.
Okay. Yeah.
So Asia Pacific dish. Again, you get a theme. So the theme for that was tofu.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had to create a dish showcasing tofu, and that kind of fed into my entree that I did for the finals in the competition.
Yeah.
So I did a macadamia and Australian truffle tofu for my Asia Pacific, because at first I thought, how are we gonna, there's not a lot of tofu use in Australia compared to a lot of the Asian countries that are competing in Asia Pacific. So how do we stand out and make it something unique and different? And like I said before, without being bound by tradition, we can use some different techniques and different setting agents and things to get that texture that's like tofu, but it's made in a completely different way. So it's all that kind of creative aspect to it, which is really exciting, and learning different techniques and showing different techniques.
Yeah, I remember when like siphon guns and that come on the scene. Do you remember when like that?
Yeah.
I don't know, that was like late 2000. Late 90s, I think, and everyone started doing like espumers. I think we and our buddy was a spumer and chocolate espumers,
foams
and then foams and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
And all that would have probably come from
Correct.
from that area. Yeah.
Because like those tuile molds, they started maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and like I said, you couldn't get them anywhere.
Yeah.
They're just kind of custom made that they did at the competition or a couple top restaurants in the world had, and now there's more and more companies that you can use, and you see in restaurants. Most restaurants have now.
Which again, it just shows the importance of it lifting the standard throughout the world, this competition, like exactly what you're saying there. So that's important. So we should definitely be getting behind our people more. Do you know what I mean? So what trips, I know you said you went to the restaurant afterwards. Did you do any other trips there? Did they take you on wine trips, or did they take you out for dinner, or did you do anything else?
We had a couple nice dinners, but it was very much just focused on the competition.
Yeah.
You go and check it out. You go to the market to buy stuff for the competition, and you get to try a few bits and pieces and cook dinner back at the house, and go to a couple brasseries and things like that. But for me, I was very focused on. And
then after it finished, did you just bounce, come straight home?
Yeah, day after it finished, we had lunch at Paul Bocuse restaurant, and then flew out the next day.
Yeah, okay.
So as I mentioned, the friend that came from Canada to help, it was his wedding about 3 days later in Mexico. So I flew right from France to Mexico, which was great to decompress with.
So it was his wedding.
Yeah.
So right before that, he was with you. That's a good friend. You need to keep him around. He's a good guy. This guy.
Yeah, it was good, and his wife Larissa was very, very understanding. So
that's nice.
I thank her more than I thank him.
Yeah. Always. He can get fucked. So I guess I've got to ask you, you're Canadian. You're Canadian. So how did you manage to represent Australia?
Well, I'm Canadian, originally Canadian, born in Vancouver, and I've been here for 16 years now.
Yeah.
So permanent resident for a while, and then became a citizen, and my life is here. My kids were born here, and I'm Australian now.
So you've got an Australian passport now, so that's how you can.
And that's part of the requirements is you can't be a permanent resident or anything like that. You need to have an Australian passport or have a passport of the country that you're representing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what made you come to Australia?
Well, I always wanted to travel, and I spent about a year in Banff, and I met my now wife in Banff. Her visa was up, and I thought I'd come here for a year. I thought
she's Aussie.
She's Aussie.
Yeah.
I thought, all right, well, I want to travel. She's going to go home. I'll go with her. I'll go to Australia for a year, and then we'll go to London for a year, and then back to Canada. And never ended up working in London. Just
never went back to Canada.
Never went back to Canada. I've been here for 16 years. So,
yeah.
And
what?
I love it.
Do you love it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you love about it?
I love the people. I love the food. I love the whole atmosphere. It is very similar to Canada, but the climate's a lot better. Yeah. I do miss having 4 proper seasons where you actually have autumn and snow and spring and summer and
but Melbourne's not too bad for that.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Yeah, you can still go up to the snow.
I know you appreciate the snow as much as anybody else,
absolutely.
And it's but going into France in end of January, and then after Mexico I went to Vancouver for a week as well. And you kind of think about, you romanticize the idea of it, but then when you're there and the sun goes down at 4:00 and it's cold and it's icy and you're gonna fall over on the sidewalk because it's just snowed or this or that, like living in it is so much different.
It's tough
than going on a holiday.
Definitely, it's a tough life as well. When you're getting up to go to the shower, fucking freezing on the way. Did you not put the fucking heating on last night?
Yeah, so you don't have those. It's not quite like that here. So even in the middle of winter, you've got more sunshine. It's not as cold. It's not as depressing, because it does get depressing. When you've got no sunshine. And the sun goes down at 3:30, 4:00. So
it's a real thing. I think it's called SAD or something. I think it's called. My nana had it. Yeah. It's like but you don't get enough vitamin D or something. Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I quite like that about here.
Yeah. I like what you're saying about people. Obviously I'm from England, and I like the more the laid back approach to things and the calmness. Yeah. And they're not getting too wound up. I used to get wound up about fucking everything, right? Like, I used to like a coiled spring. Like, you're just always ready to go at something, Like, now it's like, it's starting to rub off, and I'm like, I'll be all right. It's always going to be all right, Like, for sure, absolutely. But like you say, there's positives and negatives to both, right? Sure. I love, coming from England, I love the fact that you can go to France, Sweden, Denmark, Poland, New York, flipping Morocco, Middle East, and it's like at worst it's like 7 hours, 8 hours at worst. 6 hours, and it's, you're not even really over the country here, right? True. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. So, what, have you got any plans to be involved with the Bocuse store anymore? Can you only compete once, or
no? You can compete multiple times.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, it is it's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's volunteering.
Yeah.
You're doing it on your own time.
You don't get paid at all. You didn't get any. No. So your place of work had to support you for your days off and things like that. That's nicer than far out.
And they supported me. I was able to do some stuff at work as well, between making sure I was doing my job too. so doing stuff on your days off and in your down times and stuff like that. And it also takes away from time with family and everything. So instead of spending your days off with the kids, you're practicing. And so it is a big commitment and a big undertaking. So for us in Australia right now, so it is a lot to do it more than once.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still thinking I might do it again one day, but
when the kids are a bit older or whatever.
Maybe when the time's.
There's no
time's
age limit.
Right. No age limit.
Yeah.
I think,
what was the oldest person you've seen there? Would you say?
Well, I was actually looking at it the other day. I think 2 years ago when France won, I think the guy was 48.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
you've got 3 years left in you or something.
So then, but like George Columbaris, when he did it, he was 23.
Oh fucking hell!
So there's no. I think the minimum the candidate has to be is 23, and I think they can be as old as they want. It's just quite demanding, the whole competition, mentally, physically. So it's just whether you're up to it or not. So
and do you want to be involved around it, like give advice and just be part? I guess once you're in the team, I guess you're always there and amongst it, right?
It's like I said about the camaraderie. It's like being part of a family now.
When you do something like that with a group of people, you're connected for life, aren't you? For sure.
Yeah, and I learned so much from when I did it, and I want to help the next candidate learn from the things that I didn't know, so that they can be a step further ahead than I was, and if everybody keeps doing that, I think, you know, even with the limited funding that we have, we'll be competitive.
Yeah, nice. So who won it on your year?
Denmark.
Denmark.
It was Denmark, Norway, and Hungary.
Yeah, okay.
How ironic.
Yeah, Denmark. Norway and Hungary. Yeah, far out.
Denmark is always.
Was it nice that America didn't win? Were you buzzing? Being a Canadian as well. Is it that rivalry? Would you say?
There's always a little bit of.
No one wants the Americans to win. No way.
Little bit of rivalry, but I think it is a. No, it was really good. USA won in 2017.
Yeah, I remember.
So it was really good that, you know, somebody outside of Europe had won it.
Yeah.
So
normally it's Europeans, is it?
Normally it's European, Scandinavian countries are at the top.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have somebody new win it, and
I'm still backing for Europeans all day. Australians or Europeans. I'm backing for them all day long, for sure.
But I almost became a commie for Team Canada for 2007.
Excuse me.
But I ended up moving to Banff, and me and my wife and traveling here.
Yeah, foot in both camps.
Instead.
Would you have been able to compete for Australia if you'd have been a commie for Canada? Would that have been? Oh, you would.
Yeah, because I'd still be.
Oh, if you've got dual nationality, you could. Right. Okay. Yeah.
But I didn't end up doing it. But the funny thing is, the coach for Team Canada that year is now involved with Team USA. And he was the coach for Team USA this year.
Okay.
So it's one big family.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, that's great. So what about your day job? What's your day job?
My day job, I work at Sou'Wester Brewery in Torquay. So we opened a couple of years ago in the tail end of COVID. We thought it was gone and done, and we opened up and found out that it was still around a little bit. I
think I was there the day. Do you remember? I think I come and visit you, and that day it went back into lockdown.
Yeah,
do you remember?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a 400-seat brewery in the old head office of Quicksilver. So we repurposed the warehouse into the dining room and built a massive brewery, kitchen, and we make really good quality handcrafted, preservative-free beers. That's crafty, but also kind of sessionable.
Yeah,
you know, it's not like some of those, and everybody's got different flavors, different preferences. But it's not like some of the craft beers I find you have one and it's almost like
quite complex. Yeah.
and that's enough for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas ours kind of sit in the middle, like they're skillfully made and complex, but sessionable at the same time.
Sessionable meaning you can have a skinful.
Yeah.
You can drink loads of them. That's good.
Yeah.
And what kind of food are you doing there?
So again, it's a brewery, so it's not pretentious. It's your everyday kind of food, but we pay attention to the details, and we've got a really good team, and it's just done well. So we've got a chicken parma on the menu like any other pub or brewery would have, but we take some of the beer that we make on site and we brine the chicken in the beer brine. So we get all that flavor in there, and then we hand crumb it, and we cook it to order, and we top it with the Napoli that we make in the house that we have for our pizzas, and we've got some really double or triple smoked ham from a place in Dalesford, from like free range pigs, and it's all just really good quality stuff done well, and but not pretentious. It's still a parma, but that attention to detail that you put into any fine dining restaurant or anything like that is still applied to the everyday food that we do there. And
that technique, like you say, like brining, we do a heap of brining here. We brine of everything. I love brining. And at whatever level, if you're doing it for a parma, or you're doing it for a ham hock, or you're doing it for a piece of fish, or whatever it might be, it's the same technique. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're learning the technique. It's very common in the UK to go and work at like a pub. That isn't just a pub. I mean, a good gastro pub or whatever. Yeah. And the chef might have done like 3 years at the Gavroche, 2 years at Oxo Tower, 3 years at whatever. Do you know what I mean? Top restaurants, and gone, I just want to move to my hometown and cook and be home for my family or whatever. Yeah. And then you're a young chef and you come in and just work at this own pub, but you learn all these techniques. That's really common. And I think that's happening more and more here. For instance, like you, who've worked at a lot of restaurants, been to Bocuse store and done all what your career, but now you're like, actually, that I kind of want a brewery is where I want to be right now, because I want to spend time with my family. And a young chef can come and work with you, learn a million techniques, be around this, and not have to go and work in the city at a great, like at one of the great restaurants. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. There is a lot of people that do that and do the time in those really good restaurants, but then want to have the work-life balance that you struggle to get in some of those places, but still make good food.
Definitely.
And I think there is a bit of a stigma that comes with cooking a parma or doing some of these things that aren't defined as nice food or classy food, but you can still do them really, really well and take that approach to it. And
exactly. And going back to reiterate what I was saying, the technique is what is the important bit.
Yeah.
How you apply that technique, if it be a parma or whatever, is not really the point. Is you're learning the technique and you're learning about handling. And look, I think if you're teaching good cleanliness, good hygiene, good pack down, cleaning your tubs, having a clean spoon pot, learning how to season, just learn how to season. If you're teaching seasoning, like you can go work in some great restaurants where there's not someone on your case about seasoning and checking your blanching water and making sure that the water's got a rolling boiling, and all these kind of things. Yeah. That if you're a young chef can go and work with you, for instance, and you're going to teach them all them real basics that you would never get even at a really high end restaurant, because they haven't got the time or whatever else, and you'll just get pushed to one side, popping peas. Where I find that with them pubs and things like that, the struggle for staff, I'm not saying you're struggling for staff, but the struggle for staff, so they end up getting in a position where they really want to bring their young kids on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that's the way that you work, but you can almost get more attention until you're a little bit older and a bit more confident to go to the city. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's something as well to like eating in those places as a customer. Like, sometimes chefs are almost more excited to cook everyday homely food and apply those techniques into it to make them really, really good.
Yeah.
Than they are to the fine dining food that they don't actually eat. They just go and they work and they execute it. But when they go home or they go out, this is the food that they eat.
Yeah, yeah.
So that love and those techniques and the passion almost comes out sometimes more in this food than it does in other
sterile.
places.
Sometimes it can be a bit sterile, right? Yeah.
So when, as a customer, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds when you've got some people that really care about what they're doing, but making food that you can have every day of the week.
Yeah. So what's your last two things? Have you got any plans for the future? Are you just keep going at what you're doing and trying to progress? And
just trying to progress. Like after, it's interesting you mentioned the marathon before, and I was talking to a chef friend of mine had just done a marathon and
half marathon. Half marathon. I would fall apart at a full marathon. It was a half marathon. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, but it's something that you've worked towards and trained towards, and then that goal's been completed, and you go, all right, well, what do I do now? There's this hole that's been left because I've just completed this goal that I've spent so much time working towards. Now, what am I going to do next? So you kind of think, what am I going to do next? Obviously, the brewery is really exciting, and we've got plans to expand some more venues and things like that. So
have you?
That's really good, and there's some really exciting stuff coming from there soon. But there's also, there's still other things to work towards and to
Are you staying down the coast? Are you going to stay down the coast, living down the coast?
Yeah, love it down there. It's amazing. Might start playing more golf and things like that, or might do a couple more competitions or stuff. So you just kind of, after the competition, there's always a bit of, self-reflection. What do I do next? And same as probably felt after the half marathon. Yeah. You go, all right, well, that's done. Now what am I going to spend that time doing moving forward? For sure. That I dedicated to that.
For sure. Well, enjoy it, that is for sure. Time with the kids is never wasted time, that is for sure. Correct. Any time with them, because they're not going to stay around small forever, as we all know. Yeah. And how can anyone find you? If just repeat where you are at the restaurant, and then socials and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So Sou'Wester Brewery, SOU''WEST. So we're based in Torquay.
That's Australia, by the way.
Torquay, Australia. Yeah. I've Googled it a couple of times and gotten the wrong Torquay. So Torquay, Australia. And yes, Instagram, Alexander Macintosh, I think is...
Macintosh, it's a good name.
Yeah.
It's a good, you must have had an upgrade in a plate, Macintosh. Yeah. Bring him up the front for sure. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate your time. It's a super interesting conversation. It goes to show how big the competition is. It gives us something, the insight of it. There might be someone there that listens and goes, I wouldn't mind competing in that as well. That's something that I would like to get involved in. And it goes to show that how we need to support our people more in this competition. I think it's a vital part of the culinary journey for Australia is to get more involved in that. So good work for everyone that does do it. Amazing for everyone that volunteers their time and gives up their time with their family to try and push Australia along. So including yourself, thank you very much for representing.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No drama.
Great to catch up.